Talk Radio.
This thing right here is for my peoples in the streets.
Yes. Today,
Blog Talk Radio.
Rsg One Mic. All right, welcome to Rsg One Mic. This is your man D. Wills. I'm in the building. Before we get into our open mic, I want to bring my guys into the conversation. I want to start with my boy Hammer, who is all over the place, and we're gonna have some hot buttons for him throughout the show. But how you doing, Hammer?
I'm blessed, safe and well under the circumstances, brother. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, well, we're always good here, and we always want to make sure that everybody's healthy and willing to go. What's up, youngin? How you doing, Darnell?
I'm feeling great. I moved over to the day shift, so
okay.
I got my full 8 hours of sleep. I feel re-energized. I feel like a new man.
You look fresh. You look shiny. You look like you're ready. And last but not least, he's our man in the post, the big fella like in the triangle offense. What's up, my man, Hank? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm blessed, just like the rest of you guys, and health is staying good. Family is doing good. I'm hoping everybody out there is sheltering in place and staying healthy as much as we can. I know we're probably going a little stir crazy here. We hope that what we put together for you all will give you all a little bit of peace. Happy birthday, Darnell. If it's not you, if your dad, y'all don't specify on Facebook. But anyway, one of y'all, happy birthday.
Birthday was yesterday. He turned 65 years old, so we want to give a special happy birthday to him.
There you go. See, let's not forget some good stuff out there. And you need to put Junior on there because your dad is still here. And y'all need to be able to tell the difference, okay? Because that's what you need to do. And that gives some respect to the old man. He gave him your name. Give him a little something.
There you go. We're gonna make that adjustment on there. I always try to point that out because I don't get in trouble with my first cousin on that one. All right, we're gonna get into the open mic for you new folks. We always open the show up with the open mic to get us warmed up before we go into the cipher. And so now we're about to enter the open mic session. Well, and in this open mic session, we've been checking in, because we are quarantined. So all we can do is it's throwback every day. Everybody talking about throwback Thursday. It's throwback every day now on TV. So I know folks we always want to check in on what folks may have been listening to or watching since the last time we spoke. Do y'all have any new things, any new throwback classics you watched that kind of tickled you at all? Hank, what do you got on there? I know you got
Listen, I can't say it tickled me. And if it did tickle me, it wasn't in the right way. Okay? Because obviously what came on TV was the Michigan-Ohio State game.
Oh, I didn't watch
where
that,
JT
man.
was short. And I watched it, and I paused it, and I watched it. I got to get a new TV now. Because I done threw hats, plates, bowls at my TV set because he was short. Okay? And it cost, and the fact that later on we find out that Wilton Speight, the quarterback of Michigan at the time, actually did have a broken collarbone and played in that game. But that changed a lot, in the lore of what's going on here at the University of Michigan as far as the football program. That one play could have changed a lot of different things in how the Jim Harbaugh era really panned out. But they had the audacity, dare I say, as Bob Buford used to say, the unmitigated gall to put that on TV and have us watch it. Now, and I just, it just makes you sick, but you almost like watching a train wreck. You know it's bad, but you're gonna watch anyway. So
wow, yeah, and I scrolled right past. I couldn't even click on it, man. I couldn't do it. I couldn't live it again. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna watch that one. Thank you for sharing, brother. The classics, they're not gonna tick you. Some are gonna make you cry. So we'll go with that one. Hammer, you have any classics you had a chance to check out, any movies, sports things that kind of got your juices going?
Yeah, it was really exciting. I saw kind of a retro pick with Peyton Manning talking about his journey when he was released from Indianapolis Colts and showed his off seasons where he went to Duke. I went to Knoxville with then Coach Jones, and just seeing how he worked in his camps as well, and just seeing kind of the inside of the Manning, of Peyton Manning, and just what he did in the off seasons to come back from a devastating neck injury, as well as just seeing people that have influenced his life, such as Coach Cutcliffe, his father, and how that he's so connected to Tennessee as alma mater. So that really fascinated me to the point where it ended with his announcing his retirement. So.
Yeah, Peyton is all over television, man, in different ways. You're talking about somebody who has captured his own lane in television in all the different ways in which he's presented himself without being committed to anyone, right? He got details. He got all kinds of stuff. I think the only person who is probably better at that than him is Shaq. Shaq is owning everything.
That could change, though. That could change.
Shaq is the only one making money, but we can talk about it. You said it could change.
Yeah. You know I'm getting at, obviously. So.
Here we go. Darnell, what's up, man?
So, for me, I feel like it's going to be the same thing every single week. The Jordan doc. Man, I watch the Jordan doc Sunday. I'm going to watch it every single Sunday. But this past week, they talked about Rodman. And Rodman with the Pistons, and they had the whole Pistons versus Bulls rivalry. And everybody and their mama is hating on Isaiah right now. And I just want to remind you guys that Isaiah was a killer back in the day. Isaiah, he was the only guy that can say he was the best player on the team that beat Bird, Magic, and Jordan, all in their primes. So it is what it is. Yep.
I don't know. I wouldn't say they're hating on him, but I don't want to say too much more because you're stealing my drop the mic. But go ahead.
About the Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just fun to reminisce on that. Like, of course, I wasn't alive back then, but I've seen pretty much every basketball documentary there is. I'm a basketball nerd, so I've been watching this stuff for a long time. So a lot of this stuff I've seen and heard before. I knew about Dennis Rodman's origin story and where he came from, and like him coming from a small school, being he was homeless at one point, and they asked him to play on the team, and he just came up that way. And it's a good story.
That's a great point. And at some point, we'll get into that a little deeper. And if you have a chance to go to Real Sports Guys Facebook page, where we at, I have a posting that should be going up there. I thought Chris Broussard did an excellent job of educating young people about Isaiah. It's one of the best videos I've seen. You know, he Johnny Cochran this one in a way that's important. I think I also posted on our RSG Live Lounge page. So if you haven't had a chance to like us and become a member of the lounge, check that out. But it's a great piece. Or if you're on Twitter, follow Chris Broussard, check him out. But I thought it was a great piece the case he made for why people need to be paying a little bit more attention to what Isaiah Thomas has done for basketball and way we respect him. But I'll leave
you. Give you a Chi-Town perspective on Isaiah, though.
You got a Chi-Town perspective on Isaiah.
Oh, yeah. They'll be fascinating for you all.
So this is something that will, we might. That's what we should do. And our next one, we're gonna tackle that one. We're gonna let Hank drop the mic, and that's gonna serve as kind of the thing that will begin to set up our next podcast, where we're gonna go into the legacy of Isaiah, and we'll get the Chi-Town perspective. We'll get all that. We're gonna do that in the next one. But we're still here in the open mic with the fellas, and one of the topics before I didn't talk about mine, so let me make sure I do that. I had a chance to watch this what I could say a biopic, more or less, called Greater, on Brandon Burlsworth, who was an offensive lineman for Arkansas back in the late 90s. Walk-on, actually the Walk-on Award, the National Walk-on Award, there's a national award named after him for walk-ons. This guy went from being a walk-on to consensus All-American at Arkansas, and was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. And before he could sign his contract, he had been home, driving home from campus to his home before he went to go back to sign his contract. He got in a car accident and passed away. But just amazing story. If you ever see his pick, he's distinguished in the fact that he wore these glasses, these curved glasses under his helmet, but just so dominant. But this guy went from being a walk-on, almost barely making the team. It's a great movie. If you have a chance you have an afternoon to kind of sit back, you should definitely check that one out. It's called Greater, the Brandon Burlsworth story. It's a great story. It's a real feel-good story. It's got a lot of different messages around how he carried his life, intersection between faith and sports, and just a love that he had from a university that he really wanted to be a part of from the time he was a little kid. I think these stories resonate with a lot of us. But But here in open mic, let's move on to the next thing. The NBA, unlike the NFL, decided that it was going to postpone the draft. And I just wanted to get some feedback on y'all because it kind of seems like the NBA, after we saw what the NFL was able to do, I was like, the NBA going to kill this. And I haven't dug in too much into this story, but, you know, what did y'all think about the NBA postponing its draft? Do you think that was necessary? I thought that would be a really good element here early on. It's just something that to be at a signpost, but also to keep the NBA relevant in people's mind, even while they're trying to figure out the end of their season. Maybe talk, Hank, when you heard this, what did you think in terms of the NBA deciding to postpone this draft?
I don't think the NBA was prepared. I think that what I think that when we look at the NFL versus the NBA, okay, the NBA season was interrupted. Okay, I think the NBA is really spending most of their time trying to figure out what is Plan A to either try to get season to be resumed, Plan B, what is the playoffs are going to look like. The NFL had the luxury of being in the off season. They had an off. The Super Bowl was the first week of February. They've had all of this time since everything's been shut down to set up their draft, to talk to every individual owner about how we're going to conduct this draft. They had enough leeway time. I don't believe the NBA was afforded that. The NBA has been trying to figure out their time, what they're going to do next in the right now. And so now for them to try to move forward, you know, not knowing what's really going on with their season, with their playoffs, how they're going to resume, and then to try to stop and do an evaluation, ask these same owners to stop trying to do an evaluation, okay, of these players, which as we know right now, is that evaluation couldn't have been done. Okay, we're asking too much. This is the way I'm looking at it. We're asking you now to evaluate these players from the college game of who's coming out, whatever else. We haven't even had a chance to evaluate them, but we still got some season to play, and we got to figure out the playoffs and what's that going to look like. So I don't think they were prepared for this, and again, wasn't given enough leeway time. So I think that's why they wanted to postpone.
Darnell, any thoughts about the NBA postponing its draft?
Well, I think like pretty much piggybacking off what Hank said, pretty much that's what I think, because for the NBA to do their draft now, like with the slots and everything being in place, you'd have to pretty much kind of say that the season is over. Well, as far as the regular season at least, because you have to say like every team must have their place in the draft. So I think that is a hurdle they have to get over. But I think it's unfortunate because I want to refute one point. He said like he was talking about how the grading and the evaluation process was going to be difficult in this time. But in my opinion, a lot of players that enter the draft don't even show up to the combine in general in the NBA. So like I think these owners and GMs, they have a lot of time to look at tape. They can look at these players and figure out what they want in their team. So I don't necessarily think that's going to be a hard process. I think the process is really just if we have a draft now, we have to say that the regular season is over, and the owners don't want to end the regular season because as they're going to cut down on the amount of money that they were going to make in the first place.
I mean, could you just see this as? I mean, you know, they've always talked about having something that like a mid-season break or whatever. Wouldn't you just see this as, rather than it being at the end of the season, you know, this is special circumstances. This is a bridge thing to keep people. You're drafting folks who are not going to play until the season start, and this is a way to really promote the future of the game, even though the season's not started. I don't see why that would be a problem. Like, you don't have to sit with your normal timeline of a championship then the draft. It feels like that in this circumstance, this is a great way of keeping the energy of the draft and the future of the sport out there. Since, you know, he's always talking about, you know, they're always talking about thinking outside the box. I'm thinking the NBA should be able to negotiate that. But those are all good points. Hammer, what's some of your thoughts on this, on the NBA? And they're not going to Disney.
Well, I think the reason why they delayed it, D. Wills, is because of the fact that the assessment process has been interrupted by COVID. Normally, you'd have the March Madness where you'd have the assessment process where you look at the players, you see players that are high level and high stakes, and be able to assess them in that way. And the stakes are too high, especially when you look at all these freshmen and sophomores, undeveloped talent compared to the NFL draft just happened. Like I give you Chi-Town perspective. We clean house. We got rid of Garpax. We got dude from Denver as well, the brother from Philly. And I think if you go forward with a draft prematurely and pick the wrong talent, you're going to be at home with the fans watching the draft in a few years. And so that's the main thing, is that I think doing a draft without the proper assessment tools is a recipe for failure, especially some of these franchises that have been abysmal failures year after year. And so that's why the NBA delayed that draft, because it could have been one of the worst drafts because you look at all the assessments. I watch all the boards. LaMelo Ball is up and down, and then also international players. A lot of international players did not sign up for this draft, which was compelling, which tells you again the uncertainty. And so that's why I think the NBA delayed it, because I think with the time that you have right now, you have a better assessment process than if you do it prematurely.
All right, thank you. We're gonna keep our eye on that. We're gonna track that. Continue to track what's going on there. I think this is something that we might throw into the Cypher a little bit more and dig out in future shows. But as we go into the Cypher, let the games begin. The title of this Cypher is "Let the Games Begin," because the games have already started. The psychological games. So Trubisky has been at the center of many of our conversations over the years. And finally, the Bears are like, we're not picking up your option, your fifth-year option. Not only did that, they're going to put some competition up there in the room with him. What has been your thought about the Bears coming out saying they're not going to do this fifth-year option? This is a person that they try to sell us on. Unlike the Giants going to stick with their man. They're going to stick with their man through and through, even though people have been critical. Trubisky, it feels like the Bears are trying to hedge on us. What do y'all read into this? Let's start with the Chicago native, Carl Hampton.
Yeah, D-Will, they're just cutting the cord. Trubisky's been a disaster, especially if you compare him to Mahomes as well as Deshaun Watson. And so the Trubisky experiment's over. I think he had probably the purest talent as far as draft that could have translated to stardom as Ryan Pace did, but you don't pass on something of Mahomes, who not only had the pedigree of a major league background, and also Deshaun Watson had the pedigree of a championship background. You don't do that. And so they're cutting the cord. Foles will be the quarterback. They're going to get rid of Trubisky. And, I told you again, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy will not beat Chicago Bears next year. We'll have Justin Fields in the fold as our quarterback in 2021. That's my prediction, with a new GM and a new coach.
So, Hank, Nagy's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer. Nagy's supposed to be this developer. Like we talk about development. Now, haven't been high on Trubisky, but I had a chance to go watch him against the Lions in person. I felt like there's some development that needs to happen with him. Is there some fault around the development part of it? You spend this much money, like, where's the development? Where's the responsibility for developing him?
Listen, this is when it comes to the NFL draft, what drives me crazy about GMs is the fact that they got to be the smartest guy in the room instead of taking the natural talent, okay? When you look at Mitch Trubisky, even the Chicago fans were like, what are you doing? Okay, when if you're going to go look at a kid play in college, and we was in North Carolina, you've got to be special there. Okay? I'm talking about above and beyond special. To be picked over Deshaun Watson, who had gone to 2 national championship games and was a Heisman runner-up, and Pat Mahomes, who broke all kind of collegiate records, okay? Those talents was there for you, all right? But I'm going to be the smartest guy in the room. Is there some development? Yeah, there's some development. But maybe when you got to develop a quarterback like that, maybe you should be picked by the Patriots. Maybe you should be picked by a perennial playoff team where you can learn and get your tutelage under that, all right? But you weren't even the best quarterback in your own conference. All right, this is the thing that drives me crazy about the Mitch Trubisky piece. He wasn't better than Deshaun Watson in his own conference, and he got picked over him. This is a GM which is going to cost him his job. all right, trying to be the smartest guy in the room. You got talent. It's not about development. A development quarterback goes to a team where he can develop, not to the Bears that is third. He's got to be a franchise quarterback. Okay, if you're going that high, he was not a franchise quarterback. This is going to cost him his job, and it should. This is not on Trubisky. Trubisky was who he thought he was. That's why people were scratching their head when they picked him over these two quarterbacks. That's why Chicago Bear fans are having a fit right now watching the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl when you've got a defense that the Bears had, and you go and pick this guy over two proven quarterbacks that could have done something for you on raw talent alone. So, yeah, Pace needs to go. His option should be up with this. It was ridiculous, and it just shows. You got talent, get talent. Quit trying to be so smart. Your first 10 picks don't make any sense.
It tells you, like, you know, the old saying, you know, used to be in a room, the eye in the sky doesn't lie.
Right.
You know, and Darnell's a coach. He knows that. And sometimes people try to outthink the tape. Darnell, you young, and you're a coach, man. You evaluate young talent. I mean, what is it saying? And like, we're in what year are we in with Trubisky?
Year 4 coming up.
Year 4 coming up right now. You know, there's a lot of guys who bloomed after this. So what do you say about what's going on with that?
You took the words out of my mouth before, man. With Mitch Trubisky, he just wasn't ready. In my opinion, like, when I watch Mitch Trubisky, I see stuff. Like, I see, like, he could grow into being a really good quarterback, but he's just not there right now. He just needs some development. He needs to work on his decision-making and stuff like that. But the talent is there. But when you're there in that spot and you're picking that high, I don't see how you don't pick Deshaun Watson. We've seen Deshaun Watson do great things at Clemson. We've seen him go up against Alabama twice in the championship game and ball out both games. He won one and lost the other one, but he balled out in both those games. So we've seen Deshaun Watson play at his best against the best competition. So I don't see how you don't go with him. I know Patrick Mahomes, some scouts didn't know exactly if it was going to work out with him, but it worked out to be perfect with him. But Deshaun Watson, he had to be the guy. So.
And this is the thing about decisions. When I want to watch that Lions game and watching them all year, this is where you talk about the development. You got to help a young quarterback. They needed to start. They didn't even use Cohen. That would have been an important part of how you would have a young quarterback like Trubisky succeed. A running back who could catch the ball out could be a security blanket. I understood the whole thing about going with Montgomery, but the thing about it is, you need a dual threat in my mind. Someone like Cohen is that guy who can give you many options to a young quarterback and let him start the game with somebody who's security blanket. Like that. That's an example of what you need to do to bring a young quarterback along that I didn't see in the scheme in terms of how they developed the scheme around him that I was looking at. And I used to watch him like, why you got this weapon and you're not even using them? You're not using them in a screen game. You don't use them out. You don't isolate them on linebackers as much. Like you got enamored with this new toy, and then you just went away from the one dual threat you got who could cause a lot of problems. You're not playing him at all. And so I always felt like, you know, I wasn't a big fan of the pick, but I'm like, if you're going to make the pick, understand where he's at developmentally and what pieces do you put around him to help compensate for the things you need to do. I just didn't see – I felt like Nagy let him down on some of those things. Because when I watched the Lions game, it was a tale of two halves. First half, I was like, my goodness. Towards the end of it, then he started picking up, making some really good throws and decisions, and it's like you're not putting him in the best scenario. Guys like that who are a little bit athletic, sometimes you got to roll them out. And almost like these Theismann used to do. They used to roll him out and give him two things decisions or he going to run. And sometimes you got to cut the field in half, but I didn't see in the scheme that kind of at least amplified some of his strengths. So I like some of the things you pointed out that I just think to not play Cohen last year is much more than they should have, got him more touches in the game, I think also stunted Trubisky's growth because he's a weapon that they just didn't elevate enough. So,
but let me just add this though. But what you're talking about is developing, okay? Mm-hmm. Developing.
Yes.
Everything you want to do. You had Deshaun Watson sitting there. And how much development would you have had to do with a more polished and more seasoned quarterback that was used to playing at a higher level? Okay, this is the thing that drives me crazy. If you're going to look at that, then tell me what you saw in Mitch Trubisky that you did not see in Deshaun Watson, as far as leadership, as far as picking up, as far as athleticism, everything you're saying about Mitch Trubisky. Can you say the same thing about Deshaun Watson, only at a greater level? And at that, where they picked Mitch Trubisky, you're looking for a franchise quarterback, somebody to be on your team for 10 years to lead your franchise, right? So you go and blow that. Okay, now you're not going to pick up his option. You blew that. You dropped the ball and kicked that out of bounds. That whole thing is messed up. And what you're talking about makes no sense for a team that will pick third.
Well, the Bears have messed up every pick. I mean, Kevin White, Leonard Floyd. I mean, his whole tenure has been terrible. Adam Shaheen. I mean, Ryan Pace is just one of the worst GMs in football.
Well, Bob Quinn.
Again, we can disagree on that. I think Bob Quinn's better than Ryan Pace. But yeah, that's the main thing. But and also you look at the fact that Trubisky, 13 games as a college quarterback, and then and then also sophomore year couldn't even beat out a brother who was a free agent and got cut by the Packers. Was a free agent. I think his name is Marquise Williams, something like that. But so yeah, Trubisky, and they traded up for him when they didn't need to. They got suckered by John Lynch, a first-year GM, who came out the television booth, and you're the guru who was a right-hand man for Mickey Loomis, and you get played by John Lynch, my Stanford brother, who I went to campus with, who clowned you. I mean, I was over my guy's crib, and he's looking at me like, y'all trading up for Trubisky? I'm like, man, I told you he was bad. I told you Pace was terrible. So, I mean, hey, guess that's what's up. I mean, we're tired of Chicago, and again, we're gonna have new regime in Chicago next year, no question. So,
all right, and I'll close on this. Every time when I was in the press box at Camp Randall and saw Pace, all I could think about is Hammer saying "dead man walking." That was about it. Dallas is not playing around. They bring Andy Dalton into the fold. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, we got this Dak Prescott thing going on. They bring Andy Dalton into the fold. Okay, Jerry gonna play these chess moves on him. Jerry gonna put some tension in the negotiations. Darnell, you heard that they're bringing Andy Dalton into Dallas as a free agent signing. What was your thought? You like, okay?
I didn't like that.
You don't like it?
When I first saw that, I thought, man, Dak better sign whatever they got on the table because they getting ready to let him go. They getting ready to replace him.
Watching an episode of Billions. I was like, this is gangster. This is gangster. You done brought Dalton in, and I'm not a big, but Dalton's a proven one. So you said you didn't like it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, with him and Andy Dalton, I think they do pretty much the same stuff because like they're both field generals that are like they're good decision makers. They don't necessarily make a lot of mistakes, but also they don't necessarily do the big Patrick Mahomes, Brett Favre kind of over the top plays. They just steady, and they can excel with great talent around them. But if they don't have great talent around them, they might not be that good. So if you plug Andy Dalton in that system, he's probably going to excel and do well. So I think we might be looking at his replacement.
Hammer, I see you shaking your head over there. What's going on, man? When you saw that, I'm like, man.
No, it was a perfect marriage for both parties. Dalton's from the Dallas area, went to TCU. Everyone thought he was going to go to Jacksonville because of the Gruden connection. And people realize Jacksonville in Vegas is going to be the worst team in football. They are going to win the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes next year. So he wanted to stay home, be a backup to Dak. The one thing about Dak is that Dak's never missed a game. The law of averages is going to eventually catch up with him. He's going to play a little bit. He's going to have a chance to get a chip after losing 5 straight playoff games with Cincinnati. So Dak's going to sign the big deal. He's no threat to Dak at all. If he were that good, they would have kept him and let him be the quarterback like they did with Carson Palmer back in the day where Kittner was a quarterback and he was a bridge to Burrow, yet they think they're ready to go Burrow right now, and they cut him. So that tells you he's a decent.
Burrow is better than him and Dak Prescott.
Nah, you can't say that, bro. I mean,
well, talent-wise, I don't know. We got to see him on the NFL level, but from what I see, the accuracy and that the arm talent, I think is there.
One-hit wonder, bro. Where was he last year? How can he not beat out Dwayne Haskins? Again, Burrow.
That's why he didn't beat Dwayne Haskins. He broke his hand.
Yep. Again, hey.
And then as soon as
the biggest ability is availability. The biggest ability is availability. The biggest ability is availability. You broke your hand, so what? I mean, the bottom line is.
Boy, you two, I'm going to take over. You two, first lineman. Now we got quarterback.
Hey, we brothers, man.
Y'all two, boy. Y'all brothers. I love them. Let me bring Hank in here before we lose out. Hank, let me give you something on this, man. A final word on this.
Okay, listen. Okay, the good book says the blind that leads the blind both will fall into the ditch. Okay, so let me put this to you like this. All right, I say it like that because if anybody thinks that Andy Dalton is going to be a threat to Dak Prescott, okay, I've got some clean air in the bathroom at Michigan Stadium for you right now. Let me tell you something. He's going home simply because he's going home. Okay, if you thought Andy Dalton was going to, you got a new quarterback in Joe Burrow. All right, let's let you know what Cincinnati thinks. All right, this quarterback has led you to the playoffs. He ain't won nothing, but he's led you there. Okay, on some teams where Cincinnati had won double-digit victories, he was the one that couldn't get it done for you. All right, he's just coming home. I don't find him to be any sort of pressure on Dak Prescott at all. And if he is, it's an insult to Dak, in my opinion. All right, that's number one. Number two, he's going to sign with somebody. Dallas has got to still do what Dallas has got to do. Because, look, it was Garrett's fault at one time. Now it's Dak Prescott's fault. Okay, now you got McCarthy over there. Dallas needs to quit underachieving. All right, in my opinion. I think you put a lot on Dak Prescott that wasn't Dak Prescott's fault. You're supposed to have a dynamic running game, dynamic offensive line. Why aren't you winning, Dallas? Don't put that all on Dak. Use Dak. Use your talent the way it's supposed to be done. Garrett was sitting over there clapping and everything, and, that was it with him. Maybe it was the coaching staff. Maybe they just weren't aggressive enough. So we'll see about that. But I think that Jerry Jones is doing the hometown kid a favor. But I'm not for the least believe that Andy Dalton and what he's shown in his career is a threat to Dak Prescott. And if he is, there's more to it than that. Then they just don't want Dak to be their quarterback. That's the way I see it. That's the way I see it, because I think Dak's had more success in Dallas than Dalton had at Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had some good teams. They had some complete teams, and he could not get it done. Of course, then they did have Vontaze Burfict doing stupid stuff over there, but I digress.
Wow. Before we go to Dr. Mike, I tell you, Hank, you've done what you needed to do, man, and put a bow on this. We're going to watch how this thing going, because one thing we do know is that Dallas is not new to being a soap opera. We don't need J.R. Ewing to peak our stuff. All we have to do is watch what's going on over there with Jerry. And something's going to go on, and these stories going to brew. We're going to watch it and kind of see where it takes us. Before we go to Hank to drop the mic, we always want to just send a shout out to those folks who are the frontline folks who are just keeping us going, keeping us well, keeping our spirits, whether you're in the grocery store, whether you're at the gas station, whether you're at the hospitals, clinics, fire department, our law enforcement, whomever's out there that's trying to continue to keep the trains of society going, and also working with folks who are finding themselves victims of this pandemic. We know that you've been putting a lot of hours and time in, and we just want to say that, we just try to do whatever we can to kind of take your mind away from it. Hoping that you're enjoying what we're providing for you, but we're all praying for you and thinking about you, and, keep pushing forward from all your people here at RSG. And without further ado, we go to the elder statesman, my man, Hank Davis, to drop the mic.
Thank you, and amen to what you just said to all of our first responders out there and our essential workers out there. I want to take you guys back a little bit. I know that over the last couple of weeks, everybody's been watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan and those famous Bulls teams back in the late 80s and early 90s. But I want to give you a different perspective because this last week that there was a lot of talk about the bad boys and what had to happen with the bad boys for the Jordan and to get over this team for them to become so great. Well, let me tell you the other side of that story from a Detroit Piston fan who watched the bad boys develop into the bad boys. And let me tell you, and this is not just a hometown perspective. This is just a realistic perspective of a team that we watched here that had to learn how to win first from the Boston Celtics, second from the LA Lakers to become the champions that they came. And that the footnote to their championship run, I'm talking about the Detroit Pistons, were the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. Now, history has labeled this team to be thugs. They've labeled them to be bullies and everything, but they learned from the Boston Celtics. They learned from the Philadelphia 76ers. See, back then, basketball was a contact sport. Back then, they needed to have on shoulder pads and a helmet with their logo on the helmet, okay? In basketball, you went to the hoop, you was going to get slammed. Ask Darnell. I mean, not Darnell. Ask your dad, Darnell. But ask Devon, ask his brother. We all learned how to play basketball that way. We would go to the gym just so we could knock somebody down so they could get in the paint. That's the way we learned how to play. And that's the way that basketball was played back then. Everybody got a clothesline. You think the clothesline came from wrestling? Oh, no. It came from Kurt Rambis. It came from the Chief, okay, Robert Parrish. That's where the clothesline came from, and that's what the Pistons learned. And so the Pistons learned so well that they took it to another level, and they were a great team because of that. And because Michael Jordan had called them out, Michael Jordan couldn't beat them. And like Wilt Chamberlain said, Wilt Chamberlain said they changed the rules for him so he could not dominate. But they changed the rules for Michael Jordan so that he could. And it was because of those Pistons, and it was because of Isaiah Thomas, and it was because of the first Dennis Rodman, and it was because of players like that and Rick Mahorn, and players like that, they get a bad name for learning from the best. And I want to let you know right now that the bad boys learned from the best, and the Boston Celtics were the best, and the LA Lakers were the best. Go look at how they play, and then come back and look at the Pistons, and then tell me they were thugs or hoods, or were they just an evolution of what was basketball back in its glory days?
Blog Talk Radio.
Peace out.
This thing right here is for my peoples in the streets.
Yes. Today,
Blog Talk Radio.
Rsg One Mic. Phoenix is another place.